Reef Shark Nursery, multi-method insights from Malaysia.
Hello, welcome. My name is Nicholas Tolan. Very excited to be here to be sharing some of my doctoral research, primarily our methods of characterizing Blacktip reef shark nursery in Malaysia. So a little overview, elasmobranch research in Malaysia. The South China Sea and the Malay Peninsula is a very understudied region for sharks and rays. In particular, the blacktip reef shark, Carcharinus melanopterus, very few studies in the region, population connectivity, a little bit about the trophic ecology, and one small study about conservation planning in the marine parks. Large knowledge gaps still remain. Abundance within these marine parks, identifying nursery habitats, and ontogenetic residency patterns. So, Chagar Hutang Bay, a very small but growing group of publications have centered on Chagar Hutang Bay in Peninsula Malaysia. It's a small island gazetted as a marine park in 1995, and at this particular site, the Sea Turtle Research Unit at University of Malaysia Terengganu have been conducting conservation for over 30 years. Why study sharks at the Sea Turtle Sanctuary? Well, 30 plus years of conservation has led to limited development, human disturbance, really healthy coral reef fringe ecosystem, and a seasonal abundance of sea turtle hatchlings. And everybody knows sea turtle hatchlings are the chicken nuggets of the ocean. So this Chagar Hutang was also designated as an important shark and ray area in ISRA last year in 2024 for its potential as a shark nursery site. This is all led by evidence from student-led studies, including baseline assessments of abundance diversity, stable isotope analysis of the juvenile shark's trophic role, and their documentation of the exclusive predation during the nesting season of juvenile neonate sea turtle hatchlings. So let's explore the shark nursery criteria, because that was the main focus of my study, to characterize Chagar Hutang Bay, not only as a sea turtle sanctuary site, but as an important blacktip reef shark nursery site. So higher abundances, are there more juveniles in this area than others? We did some extensive abundance studies around the whole archipelago, and what we found is Chagar Hutang really does have some high abundances. Also, we want to look into their site fidelity or residency. How long do these sharks stay once they're born as neonates within the bay? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? And the third criteria, is this site used as a nursery site or a birthing area over multiple years? So our objectives and methods. Our first objective was, again, assessing the abundance of juvenile and adult sharks at Chagar Hutang Bay particularly, after a very extensive assessment of the three large islands. So our methods were BRUVs and drones. And then our second objective was evaluating the residency, the site fidelity of the neonate sharks, and we particularly used mark-recapture, traditional mark-recapture, and acoustic telemetry. So what's our evidence from BRUV studies? So a quick overview. This was some of our methods. So we wanted to look at the spatial and temporal abundance. So we're looking at different reef zones. We have in the yellow the shoreline, the reef fringe. I divide it between a mid-reef and a forereef because that mid-reef is a little more lagoonal, where it gets really deep in that forereef. And we use BRUV and drone surveys across these areas, BRUV surveys and drone transects to try to understand the abundance of both adult and juveniles. And what we found here was that there are way more juveniles, of course, in the shoreline area, really restricted to this western shoreline side, while we saw more adult sharks, significantly more adult sharks in the deeper forereef areas. And this is with BRUV surveys. What we found from our drone investigations was actually a bit complementary results for the juveniles. We saw a really high abundance of juveniles, CPU, within the shoreline, but we also saw a high abundance of adult sharks in the shoreline as well. Luckily, we also didn't see any juveniles. So for both BRUV and drone surveys, no juveniles were detected in the deeper zones. This next group of figures is actually my research assistant, Larry Zhang. He was tracking the sharks with the drone, so he'd centered the drone over the shark. And you can see in figure C, those are the swim tracks of the sharks. He put it into pretty much area usage, and then he also characterized the shoreline and then the mid-reef instead of my three areas. But he had some complementary results where in the reef flat, that shoreline area, we saw the most abundance of juveniles, but also some adult sharks. What about our evidence from integrated mark and recapture and passive acoustic telemetry? Well, all sharks that we caught were neonates. They're all under 62 centimeters. Our mean days at liberty for mark and recapture is about 56 days. And you can see we had our highest catch per unit effort in May and June. That actually coincides with peak sea turtle hatchling. No sharks tagged in 2023 were recaptured the next year, which to us means that they're kind of, once they're growing large enough, they're leaving the bay. And then 2 of our acoustically tagged sharks out of only 5 individuals were in the bay for more than 90 days. And you can see here, integrating our methods, integrating mark and recapture and our acoustic telemetry helped us extend our residency estimates a little bit. You can see our mark and recapture, days at liberty, so basically our first capture and our last recapture. And then our acoustic telemetry in orange is basically from when the sharks were tagged released and when we ended the study. Another important feature is our west receiver stations. We only had 2 receiver stations within the small bay. The west side had the majority of the detections, over 80%. And for that, for our juvenile sharks, kind of helps us understand that there is a specific habitat within the bay that they prefer. So I guess the main questions that we want to understand is, did we satisfy Hypel's criteria? So the higher abundance, yes, we saw that there was a lot higher abundance of juveniles than adult sharks, especially along the shoreline. From the drone evidence, we saw that adult sharks were also abundant within the shoreline. That just goes to show the differences in the methods between our BRUV detections, the BRUV being a single camera for about an hour out in the ocean, where the drones is an active transect and able to cover more area. We also saw there's some spatial preference. So unlike areas in the Pacific where you might have a large lagoon, that's a really important nursery site, it's a very spatially tight nursery habitat for these juvenile sharks along the coastline. Site fidelity or residency. So 96 days acoustic and 133 days mark and recapture. Those are our estimates for how long our residency periods were. Our integrating tagging extended those estimates. And then the third criteria, repeated use over time. So BRUVs, drones, mark and recapture, they all recorded neonate sharks in 2002, 2023, and 2024. However, we're always left with more questions. Particularly for me, is if these sharks are not staying for longer periods of time as neonates within inside the bay, where are they actually going? And what's their home range extent? So here's a little map of Redang Island, and Chagar Hutang is a very remote bay at the top. However, there are sightings of juvenile neonate sharks within some of these larger bays. And our questions are what's the home range extent? Are these sharks moving to other bays and moving back? And another really big question, movement patterns of connectivity between islands. So there's a bit of an archipelago or marine parks, Brahenti and Lantana, Redang, they're all semi-protected as a marine park area. And we want to understand, we want to have a better understanding of juveniles and adult sharks, what are their movement and connectivity between these islands. So thank you. You can see my email. We have our first publication out, the Spatiotemporal Patterns and Associations of Blacktip Reef Shark in a Shallow Tropical Bay. Please check it out. Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, one question. We got a mic over there. So,
hi, great talk. I was curious about for the BRUVs, when you were saying you found the differences between the number of juveniles between BRUV and drone surveys. Do you think that could be like competition for the bait camera, like with adults going for the camera or being?
So actually what we found is the juvenile sharks are way more attracted to the bait and would stay around the camera for longer periods of time. This is also found in other research as well. The adult sharks that we found in these BRUVs, we never had one adult shark come and actually interact with the bait. Most of the time they're just passing the camera by. And that's what we particularly found with the BRUVs. With the drones, the reason why I think we found a difference in the abundance of sharks in the shoreline with drones is mainly the drone just has a larger area it can scan. It's about 300 meters, the transect, and it's within 5 minutes. And we always find in the morning at these areas there's a lot of adult and juvenile shark activity in the morning. And one of the hypotheses is this: the release of sea turtle hatchlings is a constant food source for them along